find it ironic that I want to be iconic, be fast in the sound, be a pillar of stability where my life is full of apathy. You see the movie screen, but not the lighting crew, the sound guy. You see the painting, but not the hours the artist tried to bring the art alive. I'm not blaming you, it's not your fault, but this game is results, not progress. End product is success. In a way, it's beauty because people can't see. I can construct a personality, make them believe what they perceive to be as me while I quietly grieve, heave a sigh, refuse to cry. But enough of that. See, when I rap, my intent is to shed light on my life, to help others fight and stay alive. At times it gets hard because I can't see the progress, but I digress. Every step that I step feels closer to death, yet living feels so free. Damn it, what is wrong with me?
My name is Christina Neuwirth. I'm a writer, researcher, and bookseller based in Edinburgh.
Hi, my name is Michael Moret, and I rap and play the piano under the name Khaos Light.
I am Andrew. I'm a musician. I play drums mostly.
I'm Paul Sng, and I'm a filmmaker and visual artist.
I got into music not off my own back. It was my mum got me. I started piano lessons when I was really young. Started piano lessons and then moved on to drums. Found I was able to do it pretty much off the bat, which started this really nice cycle of being able to do it with minimal effort, which made me enjoy it, which made me do it more, which made me better at it, so I enjoyed it, so I did it more, and kind of rinse and repeat. So then 21 years later, here we are.
It's been a steep learning curve. You know, I didn't go to film school, and you know that wasn't an option for me growing up. You know, we didn't have the money for that, and I didn't have a camera or anything like that, and I kind of talked myself out of being a filmmaker before, you know, I even gave it a try, which was obviously, I think, a shame. But in the course of making those two films, you know, that was my film school. I learned how to make films, I guess, in public by making a couple. But I suppose, you know, end of 2017, I realised, you know, I can give this a go.
So I would say that I wanted to be a writer, but then immediately almost preempt what the other person might say. And what doubts the other person might have about whether that's a feasible goal. But being outside of my familiar surroundings, I think, made it possible for me to say to people who I hadn't met before, oh, I want to be a writer, and sort of stop there, and so not include all the rest of the caveats or all the rest of the, you know, if that doesn't work out kind of situation. So
I think I make music to help people feel seen. I know that seems really, really corny, but growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a black kid that went to predominantly white schools. I played soccer. I listened to like metal music. You know, I was in theater. So I didn't fit into a lot of groups. I didn't fit into a lot of white boxes. I didn't fit into a lot of black people boxes either. And so I was just caught in this void of just people not really understanding me. And it wasn't until I started reading more books and listening to music that it opened my awareness of the world and other people that are like me, that like the weird things I do and don't think that it's weird. And I felt so safe and so seen and so heard. And I think when I write music, I'm trying to give others that feeling, you know, to let them know that there are people that feel the way that they do. Because it's a very comforting thing to feel that when you find it.
I make the art that I do. I guess it boils down to, like, the reasons are kind of twofold. There's one that is, there's the stuff that comes out. There's just the stuff that wants to be made at the point at which it gets made, which the slightly more hedonistic approach. And then the second is, you know, people will commission me, people will pay me to, you know, play drums mostly on a record, at which point, you know, you can't really sit down if you're being asked to play like a rock album to, you know, have the art barge in and say, right, you know, we're going to play jazz, like, you know.
I think the biggest fear for artists, and for me in particular, is two things really. One is, you know, what most people go through, which is being able to, you know, earn money to live. And I think then the other thing in terms of fear is not necessarily fear, but just maybe concern and worry that, you know, is what I'm doing any good? And, you know, and I think all artists have some level of insecurity about that. And, you know, when you're making something, you know, the first question I ask when I'm, you know, contemplating making something is, you know, why? Why am I making it? Why? What is it about this that interests me? You know, and then the second question is, you know, who's the audience? Who's going to watch this? Who's it for? And And then, you know, if those questions, you know, what the answers are to those determine, I guess, whether you do it or not. If you get answers that you think are going to compel you to go through that journey. But there is always, I guess, a fear, will anybody watch it? You know, will people like it? Because some people, I mean, some artists will say, you know, they make things for themselves, and that's a completely valid thing. But if you're only making something for yourself, then, you know, why would you release it? Why would you seek an audience?
I think one of the most difficult things that happen when I try and write something is that I'm scared. And I think a lot of other things are then a symptom of being scared. So avoiding the writing or feeling low motivation. And I think a strategy for overcoming that has been being a little bit more methodical about how I'm planning out what I'm going to write. And that comes really late in the process. That comes after, like I've said, you know, 6 years of kind of just following my nose and doing a bunch of different things that have made an idea feel like it's ready. But when it's at that point, it can be really helpful for me to literally map out what's going to happen. And that then helps me to know where the scene sits that I'm trying to write, and to step away from that pressure to say absolutely everything in every single sentence, but to know that the sentence is building towards the meaning of the paragraph, which is building towards the meaning of that particular scene in the greater picture. But to do that, I have to know what the greater picture is and what the journey is that I think I'm going on.
You're always in search of a story. You know, at the beginning of the process, you kind of think, okay, this is the story, but that can change over time. But then when you're in the edit, and the way that I work now is I'll have a table, a chart, and it will have in one column boring stuff like the file name, the time code, and then most relevant to when we consider how we want people to feel, there'll be a column that will say, you know, audience, what do we want people to feel? What emotion should they be feeling at this point in the film? Do we want them to feel sad, happy, contemplative, you know? So that is very much a key part of it in trying to determine, you know, how you want them to feel and how that feeds into what they hear and what they see. And obviously you can play with that. You could show them something that was contradictory to what they're hearing, and then that creates a kind of dissonance maybe in how they feel about things. But it's something that I very early on didn't, you know, think about as consciously as I do now.
Ultimately, with the things that I create, I don't believe there is any inherent emotional sort of package that is being sent along. The big difference between if it's studio stuff or if it's live stuff, live, as a drummer, I want to make people move, you know. If I'm playing in a metal band, I want them banging their heads. I want the mosh pits. If I'm playing with King, I want them grooving. I want to see booty shaking and heads bobbing. Hopefully, you know, put out some music that sounds like the way that somebody feels that day. You know, if they feel happy, hopefully the music can mirror that back to them. If they feel sad, then hopefully they can feel from, you know, certain other pieces of music that I've written, hopefully they can feel that mirrored back to them and they can feel less alone. Like
my friend who's a ceramicist, a lot of her pals work with different kinds of color where you put them in the kiln and then you don't know what's going to come out on the other side. And obviously that, like, lack of control is kind of part of the process as well. But for me, I find it really comforting to know that I can deliberate and think a lot about the words that I put on the page. It feels like I'm writing a word down, and then if a reader reads that, it's like there's like a wormhole, if that makes sense. There's like we're looking at the same moon, you know. We're kind of, there's a permanence about that word that connects us, and I think that feels pretty exciting to me.